All right, so it is just one of those days where we're going to have every tech issue in the book, and a bit of a slide there from CJ in his debut for Aston Martin. So yeah, I guess today is just that day for tech issues, huh? Hey, it's a good thing about preseason, right? You can sort issues out behind the scenes and on the track. So bit of an audio issue there where sound was just not coming through. Thank you for the YouTube chat for pointing that out. But yeah, we are going to go ahead and continue racing on here. So I'll go ahead and repeat everything I said. We got time. So this is once again preseason session number 3. It is the last 1 hour session here of round number 0. Here at Bahrain. Later on tonight, it will be a qualifying shootout, so a full qualifying session. The driver actually on board with right now, CJ, will be in charge of that. He'll be in the commentary booth. And then we are going to just go ahead and see how these drivers do. Some drivers who were in F2 last season have graduated to F1, and they are here now. Both of the Racing Bulls drivers in this session of GVKP, our most recent Formula 2 winner in Brazil. Pulled off a beautiful strategy masterclass there. And his teammate who finished just ahead of him in the top 5 in the championship of Schaefer. Those two drivers will be taking up the Racing Bull seats in the F1 division. So, like myself and Epic were talking in the previous session, there's wins on the table for these drivers. Now, they might not be race wins, or even quality wins for that matter, but there will be a lot of personal wins, because the objective for these drivers this season is just to kind of get acclimated and grow as a driver here in a division where it's going to be a bit tougher it's going to be tougher than the F2 division. It's going to be more competitive. It's going to be quicker. And now things are going to be even trickier with the return of the Formula 3 division. So some drivers that might have qualified for F1 previously might go back down to F2. And some drivers that were in F2 might go to F3. So it's going to spread out the field a bit more. But we may see some more competitive races across our 15-race calendar here this season. So it'll be interesting to see where these drivers go ahead and where they stand across the season. So some drivers who are definitely going to want to improve this season are CJ in the F1 division. Didn't have the greatest of times in Alpine. And now we're joining the Aston Martin fold. He was in a Haas in the earlier session as a stand-in as he locks up the brakes just behind the McLaren of, I believe that is Raheem. That is not Raheem, that is Cam. So Cam just up the road ahead, who has invalidated his lap, but once again, these drivers are pretty much just trying to put laps on the board. They're not exactly trying to go for some quality laps, although we may see that here towards the end. The last session, it was pretty much sun up to sun down. So it started off in the afternoon. It pretty much picked up where session 1 left off, and then pretty much transitioned into what we see now. So a lot of drivers still making their rounds here. B29 has been able to rejoin the session. Hopefully connectivity issues don't bite him too much. It did kind of bite him a bit earlier on in the first session. Or in the session 2, I should say, the first session that was streamed anyway. Session 1 was not streamed. Session 2 was streamed. It's on the YouTube channel now. You can take a look at it. It was myself and Epic the Animal, which kudos to him because he was on track and commentating at the same time, so it was good to have him in the booth. It is just myself in the booth here tonight. Alfie was going to join me, but he is on track at the moment, so he has opted to focus on his on-track commitment, which, honestly, fair play to him. I mean, that's going to be the more important thing, especially as he is now racing in the recently resurrected Formula 3 division. So during this entire session, if there's any questions you guys would like to ask, I will answer them to the best of my ability. If there's any specific driver you want to ride on board with, I know this wasn't exactly an offer that was directly opened up in the last session, but it'll be offered up here. Within reason, of course, especially because it is a practice session, pretty much any driver that's actively in the session, we'll go ahead and do an on-board lap with at some point throughout the night. So, yeah, once again, if you have any questions or if you just want to talk, go ahead, jump into the YouTube chat. You are more than welcome to. And be sure to drop a like and subscribe. Turn on post notifications if you haven't already. Because, not counting sprints, across all 3 divisions, we have 45 races this season. So 15 races per division. And pretty much every Monday you'll get 3 races. So if you are a fan of a specific track, like I'll go ahead and name a few of the tracks on the calendar. We have Australia as the season opener. And then we have Hungary making a return to the calendar. Circuit of the Americas, the real-life Formula 1 track that's racing this weekend. We'll also be racing a TFR for round number 4. And then we have other eSports classics like Singapore, Suzuka, Abu Dhabi, Monaco's coming back. And I may or may not try to convince admin to make Monaco a night race this time around. So stay tuned because there's going to be a lot of fun racing action. Lots of commentators going ahead and giving it a go. And on the commentator front, I do want to go ahead and congratulate Epic the Animal for winning Commentator of the Season for Season 24. If you were watching around last season, he lit up the F2 comms, and I'm really happy for him to get that award. And also, there's actually a good amount of rewards, so we're actually going to go ahead and highlight the drivers who have gotten awards here in TFR Esports from the previous season. So taking a look at the awards. So driver of the season was, without a shadow of a doubt, the current F1 reigning champion of IMD. And then rookie of the season is a driver who is unfortunately not here, but we will switch to the car that he drove from that season. It is not the Mercedes, it is the Kick Sauber of Michael Luis, was the number 1 rookie driver of the season. Commentator of the season was Epic the Animal. Best behaved in the community was GV. GV was rated as the nicest / best behaved member of the community. Disappointment of the season. We could probably skip over that one. I'm definitely not gonna say who it is. It may or may not be the driver currently on our screen. Nah, it couldn't be. But yeah, all things aside, it was a bit of a rough season there, and it's still a bit of a rough moment there for CJ as he's continuing to have a little bit of trouble in the Aston Martin. He had a few moments earlier on, but once again, he is back to having his unfortunate moments. But then again, this is just preseason testing, so you can kind of get used to how a car feels and just kind of make any adjustments as necessary. And then speaking of the drive of the season, we had Mo Solver from 16th to 2nd place in Brazil in F1. So he won that award. And then overtake of the season was actually a double overtake from Poole on to Gigi and Willu. And then moment of the season was when a certain Wheeze suffered a last lap puncture, costing him a win in Austria. So there's a lot of fun moments from the season, a lot of talented drivers, a lot of quick drivers, and a lot of drivers looking for redemption. So that's why I think you guys should definitely go ahead and subscribe and turn on those post notifications, because you don't want to miss anything here this season, because it's going to be a fun season. We have a little bit of a battle here between Penzug and CJ. The two drivers battling it out. And that's the thing about preseason too, is you can have some fun. You can do a little bit of racing. You can have just a few battles to kind of give a prologue to what the main season is going to be like. Although, unfortunately, Bahrain is not on the calendar this season. And actually, I know we talked about it a bit earlier on, but let's go ahead and officially run through the calendar as these drivers are making their way through. So we are going to kick things off in the land down under in Australia. So Australia is pretty much always a certified banger when we go there. The first race actually commentated for TFR was actually in Australia. It was a really fun race. Oops. That's a unfortunate thing to pop up on screen. The tricky thing of using a keyboard and a controller at the same time is sometimes, because the keyboard is nice for switching cams, but if you neglect the controller too long, then it does that kind of thing to you. But then we go from Australia, from the land of down under, to the land of the rising sun. We go from there to Japan. And then from there we head to Singapore for round number 3. Kind of wrapping up our Asian rounds here. The 3 races that are in that kind of Asia/Oceanic region of the world. And then we go there to America. We head to the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. And then from there we go to Canada for round number 5. And then we head to Monaco for round number 7. And then Azerbaijan. And then we have the United Kingdom, aka Silverstone. And then it is Hungary. Then it is Belgium. And then we have Italy. And then we have Las Vegas, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, and then Abu Dhabi. So that is going to be pretty much the calendar for the season. Some of those races will have rain. And once again, I'll try to convince admins to try to make Monaco a night race. So actually, for those of you actively in the YouTube chat at the moment, go ahead and let us know if you'd like to see a Monaco night race this season. Just go ahead and let us know. And as the chat has requested, it has been put on. The camera's now on D as we ride on board with the reigning champion, current 4-time champion, looking to make it a 5th. He was champion last season, looking to make it another go at things. Still following that really interesting trajectory. We'll see if he can make it 5 this season, or if he might actually struggle a bit this season. We don't know. Now, granted, we know D is a very rapid driver. I mean, he's already got 4 titles to his name, and he's a reigning champion for a reason. But there's also a real-life example of a driver who has been pretty much dominating. He's got several world championships to his name. And then he moved to Ferrari and didn't really do so well in the real world. I'm sure you guys probably know exactly the driver I'm referring to. We'll see if D also gets hit with the Ferrari curse. As we have a bit of a moment there with one of the Haas's. That is Alfie getting really close to the back of the Aston Martin there. We'll actually go ahead and narrate D's lap as he's going to go ahead and go on through. He's got a Williams and an Alpine just up ahead. So that's going to definitely slow him down a bit. But yeah, we do have a lot of drivers going ahead. And maybe a bit of a moment for Alfie again, potentially. Yeah, it looks like it was coming out of turn 10. Bit of a rough moment for him. Few drivers on outlaps at the moment, including Alfie on the medium set of tires. Now here's an interesting thing that we did kind of note from the prior session is that we had drivers kind of start on the mediums and the hards, and then gradually everybody started running the soft tire. So it'll be interesting to see if that is going to happen yet again. So yeah, we'll just have to kind of keep an eye on things and just see how it evolves. The track will evolve. The track will get grippy. And oh, look at this. We have a bit of a gaggle of cars here as Harbor Man going to go ahead and try to put pressure onto the Mercedes just up the road ahead of him. I told you we were probably going to see a little bit of racing happening here tonight. And I think that we have definitely hit that. I think we definitely do have some racing here. There's a McLaren off track. That is Cam, who is P2 in the last session in a Ferrari. Comes to the Papaya squad and is so far just not at the greatest of times. Sure, that was a bit of a Code Brown moment for whoever was coming to there. And oh, that's a puncture in the back. I knew something looked off about that McLaren, but there is a puncture on track here for Cam. No, those aren't super old tires, so that was definitely from contact. And he is sliding. He actually might be out of the session, so we might have our first retirement from the preseason session, which is going to be very unfortunate for the McLaren man. And the McLaren roster in general is trying to get some laps, and oh, look at that, he's trying to fight with that McLaren. Getting a rear puncture is so devastating. We talked about punctures a bit earlier, and that's another spin there. That McLaren, that thing's going to be limping to the pits. I mean, those tires, I mean, they do look pretty beat up from the graining, so maybe. Although it's hard to think that the hard tires wouldn't actually get to more than 20 laps, because there's drivers who are currently on 12 laps that don't have any kind of puncture. So I mean, this thing is just, it's a bit of a rough one. Yeah, so that car is now fully propped up, going to be put on the car carrier. Now he's going to just get wheeled back into the pits. So that is the first puncture. I think that's the first puncture of the entire session. So, interesting stuff. Not something you see every day. So, kind of a interesting one. We'll see. The best lap was set on a one lap old set of soft tires, and that was Hyper Ghost. No penalties for anybody here at the moment, although granted it's pretty much impossible to get a penalty. You can get invalidated track limits, but that's just about it. Hypergo is going to go ahead and get going here. We'll check in with a few other drivers here. We'll check in with some teams that we haven't given a whole lot of screen time to today. We'll check in with Red Bull, and we'll also check in with Williams here. Two teams that are going to be pretty crucial, and they have some pretty crucial goals. Red Bull they have a defending drivers champion, but that champion since moved to the Scuderia. So once again, we'll see how it's going to play out, but interesting times here. And honestly, this is going to be such a good season. Taking a look at the championship, Red Bull are actually the reigning Constructors champions from last season. So they got 8 wins on the board. So that's always good to see. Good to see a team having good consistency, winning 8 out of 12 rounds of the season. So Red Bull really in the driver's seats. Williams were in 9th place in the F1 season previously. So not exactly the greatest of times for Williams. They're going to be a team looking for a good comeback. Taking a look in the Formula 2 standings. Racing Bulls, actually. So it's been pretty much kind of Red Bull domination. Racing Bulls had the top. They're on top of the Constructors Championship in F2, with Williams down in P6. So, and actually Red Bull was only in 8th in the F2 Championship. So, the Red Bull fold dominating both championships. Almost had a perfect Grand Slam. The only thing that kind of disrupted that was it was not a Racing Bulls driver that ended up in P1 in the Drivers' Championship. That would actually go to a now F1 driver. The Kick Sauber of Michael Luis ended up on top. So here's actually something we're going to go ahead and do. I'm going to go ahead and refill that request from earlier on. We're going to go ahead and ride on board with the current champion as he starts his next lap. I'll just go ahead and let you guys listen to the engine of the Ferrari. And then I'm going to take a step back, let you guys enjoy this turbo hybrid V6. And we'll be back here momentarily. Alright, so that was an onboard lap there from the reigning champion in TFR F1. It was Amadi going ahead, and he's currently in 18th right now, but once again, the focus here is long runs, trying to understand your car, trying to understand where you're at in terms of pace, what you might need to work on, what you might not need to work on, and overall just trying to get accustomed to everything, especially trying to get accustomed to a new car. While it is equal performance here in TFR eSports, but just the feeling and the atmosphere of being in a different car can upset some drivers a bit, and it could take them a bit of an adjustment period, especially when you're used to looking at one specific POV of a car for an entire 12-round season. It could be a bit tricky to kind of adjust to a different car. I mean, some drivers rely on, in some cars too, especially like in the case of D, who is switching from a Honda powered car to a Ferrari powered car, the engine sound is different. So if you're one of those drivers who likes to rely on the engine sound cues for gear shifts potentially, or some other form or some other aid that I am unaware of, then that could be a bit of adjusting to get used to. You also have to think about if you're one of those drivers who drives in cockpit view, trying to get used to seeing around a halo is something that you might want to kind of think about and try to learn from, try to focus on a bit. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into getting ready for a new season. You got to kind of get ready, and like Epic said earlier on in the prior session, it's a good low-stress environment to kind of get used to league racing, because you can do practice in a AI session, but the AI will always do the same thing at the same time. But when you practice in an online session like this, where you pretty much have everybody on track, then it's not exactly the worst thing on the planet. It's actually pretty good, I would say. So yeah, once again, we'll just have to kind of keep an eye on how these drivers develop throughout the season, because once again, driver development is a very key factor, especially for a lot of these guys who are graduating from F2 to F1, specifically like GV and Schaefer, the two Racing Bulls currently in session. Few other drivers did get promoted, but I don't see any of them in session at the moment, unless there is one that I missed. But Keezy is going to go ahead and come across the line. He'll start a time 3 seconds slower than his previous lap time. But once again, lap times aren't everything here. It's lap count. That's the big one. It will affect engine reliability. And for those of you maybe new to TFR eSports, engine reliability might make or break your season, honestly, because it can, if you have a bad engine reliability, then you will have to take a grid penalty, which will pretty much kind of hurt your chances of, well, I mean, it kind of bans you from qualifying essentially, and it makes things a bit trickier in terms of just trying to move up spots, because it is very competitive here in TFR eSports. Ignoring that Red Bull won 8 out of 12 races last season, and also with the calendar extending to 15 rounds, we're getting an additional 3 rounds this season. It's going to be tricky for some of these drivers to kind of get acclimated, but they'll have a bit more time to do it. Like I said, 15 races across in all 3 divisions, 15 races apiece, so 45 different race events across the entirety of the season. So you'll get triple dosage of every single track on the calendar, because we are bringing back the Formula 3 division. So F3 is making a comeback, our tier 3, which is going to be the first time we've had F3 since I've been around here at TFR Esports. I joined right at the beginning of season 23, and F2 was not a thing for that season, and it wasn't a thing for season 24, but now it is here for season 25. We've had enough drivers to make an F3 division, so that's always good. It's always good to see the league growth. If you want to go ahead and join TFR Esports, potentially as a reserve or even a driver at some point, the link to the Discord should be in the bio or it might even be in the description of this broadcast. So be sure to go ahead and join on in. Even if you're missing out on preseason, you won't miss out on the season, because there's a lot of drivers who will have missed the preseason that won't actually miss any of the regular season. So a little bit of good encouragement for you. So it's never too late to jump on in. Or if you want to jump on in as a commentator, we have spots open for commentators as well. So if you'd like to join in and jump in and be in the booth, then you can go ahead and also join the Discord, and we'll get you set up there. So it's going to be a fun season this season, I reckon. I mean, we talked about the tracks earlier. It's a pretty good selection of tracks. There is a season break. There will be a few breaks throughout the season, but for the most part, it will be consistent racing action pretty much all week long. So once again, we'll just I'll go ahead and see if we can find anything specifically, but so here we go. So so I did say the lap times weren't the most important thing in the session, and they aren't, but in each session, the top 10 will get an extra 2% reliability for their team. So in the case of the Williams now, we'll say Keezy and Willu do finish in these positions. They will get 4 extra percentages of reliability. So here's the team objectives, right? If you get 200 laps or more, you get 150% reliability. And then 180 laps will give you 120. 160 will give you 110%. 100% is obtained by completing 120 laps as a team. And then 95 laps will give you 90% reliability. 70 will give you 80% reliability. 50 for 70. 30 for 65. And then if you only do 10 laps across these practice sessions, then you get 60% reliability. So there's a few other rules and regulations, but I don't think there's any effect, because last session and this session have been full sessions. So yeah, I think pretty much for the most part, there's a rule saying that if there's a team missing a car in one of the F1 or F2 specific sessions or the mixed sessions, they'll be fined 5% reliability, which I don't think is going to be the case for any team. At least I haven't heard any of that yet. But so here's the thing about the shootout, which will happen shortly after this. The commentator will be CJ, so the man currently in Aston Martin right now. He'll be jumping into the commentator booth for that. It'll be a full qualifying shootout. So it'll be the 3-stage qualifying, where in Q1, P16 through P20 will be eliminated, and then it'll be P15 through P11 will be eliminated from Q2, and then a top 10 shootout. And then extra 5% of reliability will be given, where each... That's actually a weird way of reading it. I'm reading it from the official announcement, so it's a pretty weird way of saying it. But the fastest time overall will earn a bonus 10% of engine reliability. So once again, engine reliability is a unique thing that TFR eSports does. And if you fail the engine reliability check, then you get I think it's a quali ban. So you have a rough qualifying, which is really not going to help your case. So bit of a tough one for some drivers. And like Epic said earlier, it can really make or break your season. So that's why there's such a big incentive placed on the pre-season event here. So that's why we're seeing drivers put in so many laps on such a wide variety of tires as well. And there's a good amount of drivers that are preparing for the shootout later on tonight, which once again is scheduled to be right after this session ends. They're going to get things ready, and then it'll be CJ taking over for the qualifying shootout. So once again, be sure to go ahead and turn on those post notifications because that stream will be coming very shortly after this one. And then once again, it'll be CJ in the booth going ahead and getting things ready to go. So, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and roll with it with the keyboard because that's pretty much what I've been using anyway. So apologies for that warning happening again. So yeah, I mean it's been a pretty solid session so far. Right now we have 3 drivers pretty much in the top portion with and actually funny enough, Kestrel is setting the fastest medium lap time of the entire night. So good for him. You'll love to see it. It's interesting though too, because I mean, setting a fast lap on mediums on this track is pretty good. This track does like to kind of hurt tires a bit, and especially because we are in the Middle East and it gets very hot out here in the Middle East. And also, this is close to actual. I think now we're actually in the territory of actual race and qualifying conditions, unless there's an admin change. Or the admins decide it's going to be a daytime race instead of a nighttime race like Bahrain typically is. Which wouldn't be exactly unheard of. I haven't personally seen it because, as we were talking about earlier, there's only one track that is a daytime track that could be converted to a nighttime race, and that is Monaco. And then you have pretty much every nighttime race can become a daytime race. So pretty much 2 out of the 3 first races could be a daytime race if admins decided to throw a curveball, which, making a bit of a not so bold prediction, is likely not going to be the case. So actually, correction, 1 out of the first 3 races can have a switch, and that is Singapore. So Singapore can be a day race, although I think it will stick to being the original night race. I just can't see Singapore being a day race, to be honest with you. But we could see Monaco be a night race. Once again, that's also not very likely, but it is something I think that would spice things up a bit. But once again, that'll be up to the admin team. We'll see if they do take my suggestion or not. But either way, Monaco should be a bit of a fun one, as we do have a Sauber going super wide. That is Haribo Man, taking a bit of a rally adventure here, trying to compete in the Bahrain rally raid race. So, kind of a interesting moment there, but anyways, still a good amount of time on the clock. 19 and a half minutes left to go in the session. So yeah, once again, if you guys have any questions about anything, if you guys have any comments you'd just like to throw in the chat, just go ahead and do so. It is an open chat here, so you're more than welcome to jump in if you have a onboard request with anybody, or if you want to ask the commentator a question, or overall you just want to just have a good conversation. We are more than open to that. We have some racing action sparking up here, at least a little bit. It was Alfie and the McLaren of, I want to say that might have been Raheem, maybe. No, that was not Raheem, I don't think. No, that was the other McLaren of Cam, who had his tire puncture early on. Go on board with the Saubers. All right, asking ye shall receive. We'll go ahead and get that rolling for you on the onboard. So we're going to ride on board with the Sauber here as he is going to go ahead and make his way through. He does have a Mercedes just up ahead. I know that was a bit of a lag moment. Haribo Man is on track to setting the fastest lap on the night in Session 3. He did improve on that first sector. Now he's going to get a good amount of a tow from the Mercedes just up the road. So this might actually be a qualifying sim for Haribo Man. He's going to make his way through turn number 10, and he's going to turn on the DRS again, burning a good amount of that battery. He's going to have just about 40% by the time he makes it into turn 11. And then he's going to go ahead and make his way on through. We'll see if it's going to be an improvement. It is an improvement by about a tenth of a second. So 1.2 tenths of a second out of Sector 2. No purple sectors, but he is improving. Although, granted, purple sectors can be taken with a grain of salt. He's coming through the last couple of corners now. He's going to turn on the afterburners, burn any bit of battery he has left in that Sauber from the Ferrari powertrain. He goes fastest overall with a 128.9. Now, we were seeing times in the 120... It was the 127, I think, epic set. Now we're chilling with the other Sauber, who is making his own adventure here, as Hyper Ghost is going to go ahead and just try to wait for these cars to pass. And oh, look at this. He's really just rallying it around. Using a good amount of the runoff patch. It's a really weird runoff patch because it does kind of merge into the gravel here. And then you come out probably the tightest corner of the track. So it is not the easiest runoff to kind of utilize, but it is a runoff that can be utilized nevertheless. Once again, there's not really, as far as I know, there's nothing really that's going to penalize any of these drivers in the practice session unless something extra egregious happens. Then we can see maybe some kind of penalty, maybe to a team's engine reliability. We will see. As these drivers are kind of just trying to build now, trying to build up, and maybe just come into the pits potentially. I think probably both these drivers are going to make their way into the pits. We're going to go ahead and hop on board with the driver who's currently P6 right now. It is going to be Wulu in the Williams, or Williams. Okay, that was a stretch for a pun. I'm sorry, chat. That was a bit of a stretch. But actually, we're going to go on board with Mindmaster, who is currently 7 seconds off the pole time. As we see some drivers go ahead and jump up and down this leaderboard. We'll see if Mindmaster can go ahead and make an improvement to the time. We'll see if he can jump up the order, as Mindmaster is now making his way through Sector 2, which is the trickiest part of the track to navigate, because turns 9 and 10 are some of the most interesting corners in Formula 1. Pretty tricky, too, to get those braking zones just right. And now he is going to go ahead and get the overtake. He will have a Mercedes just up in front of him. That's going to give him a bit of a tow. The Mercedes will move out of the way. And now they go to the last few corners in Sector 2. We'll see if Mindmaster is improving on his time at all or not. Improving by 5 seconds, so he will jump up the order a bit. He will probably jump up into 17th, I will say. So 17th is probably where he's going to jump up to. We will see. Unless he can make a lot of time out of this final sector, which is pretty possible. We might see him jump up higher, maybe a top 10, but... Oh! He'll jump up into second. So he made up a lot of time in that final sector. He is only 82 hundredths of a second behind Haraman's time. So that's more the pace we come to expect from Mindmaster, one of the MVPs who just barely missed out on Rookie of the Season back in Season 23. And now we have a few more drivers still going on through the laps. Championship leader only in 13th. Although, granted, his best lap was on the medium set of tires, while a good chunk of well, actually, there's a lot of people who were quicker than him on the mediums, but once again, he'll ideally want to aim for that top 10 so he can get some extra reliability for his team. Get an extra 2 points for each car that is within that top 10. As Keezy in the Williams jumps up to the top of the times now, almost 3/10 quicker than Haraman. And now we're starting to see some of these quality runs kick in. We'll jump on board with Alfie, who I believe is just about to go on I think he actually is actively on a quality run in that Sakura-themed Haas from the Japanese Grand Prix. A recently added livery to F125. Now, I will say, will you prefer F124, 23, or if you're a weirdo that likes F122 and then compare it to F125? The fact that drivers can change their liveries on specific cars if they have a livery unlocked is pretty neat. I think it's something they should have done from the beginning, instead of forcing special liveries to be locked into cars or the F1 World Car. I think this is definitely a step in the right direction. Hopefully we see more of them, but The Haas currently has the most. They have their Canada GP livery and then their Japanese GP livery. So we're going to see as Alfie is going to go ahead and use a little bit of the slipstream from the Alpine just up the road. And now he's going to try to burn every bit of battery. The traction control, at least it looked like traction control, slipping a bit as he's coming through the final corner. He burns on the battery and he's in the 7th. So currently both Haas's in the top 10. So that's a pretty good way to start this session, or to kind of, it'd be a good way to start the season if we could see both Haas's in that top 10. Currently there's actually quite a few teams that have both those drivers in the top 10. You have Mercedes, Sauber, and Haas. All teams with both drivers within the top 10, which once again that will probably change as more and more drivers will opt in to do their quali laps here soon. We'll go on board with the Ferrari. Currently 3/10 up on his previous lap time. This is Penzug. We'll see what Penzug can do as he's going to go and try to make his way through the last couple of corners now. He's finishing up Sector 2 in a DRS zone. I don't think he's trying to really burn it. He is running on the medium setting for the ERS, so not going to be burning a ton of battery here, but nevertheless, there will still be a little bit of battery burned. As now he's going to make his way through Sector 3. The battery will be burned a little bit here and there, but overall still trying to kind of keep that battery in check. And now he's going to go ahead and try to push it across the line. As Penzug, is he going to improve on his lap time? It's going to be a improvement by 0.8 of a second. Improve his time, but not his position here. So once again, we are down to about the final 10.5 minutes of the session, but don't worry, TFR eSports is not done yet. We have one more broadcast left to bring you guys, and then it'll be it from us until next week when we take to the season opener in Australia. We go to the Albert Street Circuit in Melbourne. That'll be season 1 to kick things off. We'll have F3, F2, and F1. So you get a triple dosage of Australia to kick off the season, and honestly, what a better way to kick off the season than going ahead and having a triple header essentially. So I'm curious to see if anyone is gonna do like what Mindmaster did in season 23, where he was driving in F2 and F1 simultaneously, and maybe we'll see somebody actually do a triple header of F3, F2, and F1. That would be absolutely crazy if we've seen that, but who knows? We could see a lot of different things. We can see a lot of different things here. So, any predictions from you guys for the season before we go ahead and wrap things up here, and then we'll pass it over to the shootout? In terms of who I think is probably going to win the shootout, depending if they're there or not, because there's some drivers who aren't in this session that are going to be in the shootout, and vice versa. So I think if he is there, it's going to be kind of tricky not to see the reigning champion do it, but also I think Epic has got a pretty good chance, so I think it's going to be Epic actually getting pole position in the shootout, because he did have the fastest lap time. He was in the 127s come the end of it, so I think there was a bit of contact there for one of the Racing Bulls. That would have been Schaefer, as Kestrel jumps up to the 127s. It'll be the first 127 of the evening. But once again, it's still a good amount of time left to go. The track will get more and more rubbered in as the session goes on, as the night goes on. So once again, these drivers are going to go to give it their all. Try to get as many laps in as humanly possible. So we'll see. Now, this is something interesting that I know it's from last session. I will see in this session too. Actually, we're kind of already seeing it here, but there's kind of this migration, if you will. The migration of just seeing drivers go from, because earlier on in the session, right, we've seen drivers start on the hard or medium tires, and then they will gradually migrate to where they're all using the soft tire, trying to get some last moment quality runs in. So, oh, the two Mercedes, or that's actually a Mercedes and an Aston. That is B29 also accidentally almost hurting the Mercedes of Kestrel, our current session leader. As Penzog now is a bit far off, but once again, this is kind of a mixed session. So, and there's some drivers who aren't even really prioritizing lap time. So, now just to go ahead and give an update, it is still Williams, Sauber, Haas, and Mercedes, all with drivers within the top 10. So they're going to get a really big bonus when it comes to reliability. They'll get, I think, an extra 4% total, because you get 2% per driver in the top 10. So that'll be, and I mean, honestly, I think in this championship, it's always just going to be the case of consistency, and having engine reliability issues doesn't exactly speak to that consistency. It honestly goes against it. So, especially with now there being the F3 division coming back and all, the grids are going to be tighter. The racing is going to be equally as intense, if not even more intense. Honestly, there's going to be a good amount of battles and also a good amount of new faces as well, because we have a lot of F2 drivers getting promoted to F1. And then some drivers are in the F3 division as well, and some might be doing a double between F2 and F3. We'll have to see how the season goes. I mean, we can make predictions all day long, but a prediction versus the actual season, the two don't usually go hand in hand. You can make a prediction and then it's completely wrong. So we'll just have to see how things rock. Although it is also worth noting that Bahrain is not on the calendar for this season. Unfortunately, it is in the preseason, but it is not on the main season calendar. I think it actually got replaced with Hungary, funny enough. So we're going to the Hungaroring in place of Bahrain, but Bahrain will be a preseason track. It's slightly a bummer, at least for me, because Bahrain is probably one of my favorite tracks on the calendar. It's definitely one of the most enjoyable to drive, but I mean, you gotta switch things up every once in a while. At least we do have Spa on the calendar, though, so Spa is going to be a fun one. One of the best tracks in Formula 1 as well. It's another track that's highly rated amongst pretty much anybody. There's some drivers that I know who really don't like Suzuka, who don't like Interlagos, who don't like Monaco. Drivers who don't like, a lot of the street circuits out there, like your Miamis, your Jeddahs, your Singapores, etc. I have yet to really hear someone say that they don't like Spa. So that just speaks to the testament of how good of a track it is. We're going to go ahead and actually do an onboard lap once again. Let's go ahead and pick... Who should we pick this time? 4 minutes ago, so this will be the last onboard lap. Actually, we'll do it with... Let's see, who can we grab for this? We'll go on board with Hyperghost for this lap, and this is your official hydration lap, as I'm going to call it. Go ahead and get some water in your system, and we'll be back. Alright, so that is the TFR hydration lap done by the Kick Sauber of Hyperghost, as there's 2 minutes left to go on the clock, so pretty much drivers are going to get their last laps in as we go ahead and wrap up this third and final preseason qualifying session. Or it's not a qualifying session, it's just a preseason practice session, essentially. So we do have a qualifying session coming up, though, after this. It'll be a full quality shootout. CJ will take over in the commentary booth for myself. And then after that, we'll be back the week after for Melbourne. We'll be going ahead and kicking things off in Australia for the season. So we'll see if these times are going to go ahead and jump around a bit. I'm assuming they will be. There's pretty much a lot of drivers on outlaps here at the moment. We have Keezy on one, Cam on one. Oh, Cam is on a bit more of a rally lap, I would say. So we'll stand board. We'll kind of bounce around a bit, check on a few different drivers individually. D is only in 16th at the moment, so he is up by 0.6 of a second. So he'll jump up at least a few spots on this lap, but he hasn't been running these soft tires all night, so I'm gonna have to check in on Cam as well, because Cam is just all over the place on the track now. Taking out every single barge board available, and now he's just gonna drive it straight to the wall. And yeah, he just kind of plowed it straight to the wall there. So I'm not sure exactly what he's doing, if I'm being completely honest. I like to, yep, and he just got disqualified from the session, so that's that done, I guess. I like to be fair. I like to give everybody the best and benefit of the doubt, but yeah, I can't really understand what he did there. So D will jump up into second place, so that is definitely more of what we were expecting to see from the reigning champion. He's won the championship last season with Red Bull, and this season probably with Aston Martin, and he has had a total of 4 championships. And it was actually in question whether he would actually compete this season or not to try to get that 5th, but it looks like he might. So a few drivers doing their final laps now. Kestrel hasn't validated, so he will not get a chance to improve his lap time. He'll be in the last car across the line, and he'll put the second lap onto the set of tires. That'll be his qualifying done, or his practice done and dusted. D is still going to continue on through his lap. The other McLaren of Raheem going to go ahead and finish his lap. He'll remain in P18. And then we have a Sauber coming across the line. That'll be Horrible Man going ahead and wrapping his lap up. Hyperghost going in and about to finish it up. He does have a Racing Bull behind him, just swerving a bit, get some extra in those tires. That'll be himself and Schaefer coming across the line. They're done. We'll see how the rest of the field goes. A few more drivers coming across that line now to wrap up their lap, as D is going to go and be the next car to come across the line. Willu does jump up to P3. But D is going to come across the line. He will not improve. He'll be in 3rd place. So is there any team with both cars still in the top 10? There's actually 3. It is this time Williams, Racing Bulls, and I believe Sauber also made it to the top 10. So that is the end of this session. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here now. So just running through our order, it is Mint Kestrel being the only driver in this session to set a 127. Followed by Willu, D, Keezy, Hyperghost, Phantom Fox, B29, GVKP, Schaefer, Hairman, Mindmaster, Stan, Ronnie, Kevin Cow, CJ, Alfie, Codematic, Raheem, Penzug, and then Cam got disqualified from the session. So that is going to go ahead and wrap things up here for TFR eSports round number 0, the preseason session is pretty much done and dusted. So once again, on behalf of TFR Esports, my name is Patrick Coleman, aka Rekus, and I've been your host and commentator for this session. And then we'll be back actually here in a little while, as we're going to go ahead and get ready for the preseason shootout. It'll be hosted by CJ, and then we'll see you then. Have a good night.